welcome everyone to today's school board meeting. I'd like to call to order July 28th, 2025, District 7 Board of Education school meeting, special meeting. Carrie, would you please call the roll?
Bertels. Sanderson. Here. Ahart.
Here.
Bryan.
Here.
Carver. Bauer. Here. Patey.
Here.
Johnson. Here. Proctor. Here.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's school board meeting. At this time, we'd like to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the July 28th, 2025 agenda as it has been amended this evening. May I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Carrie, please call the roll.
Sanderson.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Ahart.
Yes.
Bryan.
Yes.
Patey.
Yes. Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Hold on a second. We'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the board's executive closed session meeting held on June 23rd, 2025. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Bryan.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Sanderson.
If I abstain, do they not get approved? Oh, abstain.
Ahart.
Yes.
Patey.
Yes. Okay, at this time, Dr. Shelton will provide the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to actually start out with not how I planned to start out because I changed it as I walked in. I want to welcome one of the newest members of the District 7 kind of team. Sergeant Jake German is in the back of the room. So Sergeant, if you can just raise your hand. So Sergeant German was named a couple months ago as taking over for Sergeant Matt Evers as the sergeant of our SRO school resource officers. So we appreciate our partnership with the city and the city of Edwardsville, the police department, and I'm really excited to be working with Sergeant German. He's already hit the ground running and met with several of our staff, and we were chatting before the meeting. He said, just wait for school to start. That's really all we need. So we definitely need kids in buildings. So welcome again, Sergeant German. A couple key updates as we jump into the school year, and I've got a slide deck to follow because I know everybody has said they really like the visuals, so I'm trying to put slide decks in and start with some summer construction. So summer construction is wrapping up, although if you drive by Woodland, Lincoln, some of our other buildings, you may not think it is, but it's actually going just as we expected it to. I'll start out actually with the high school commons, and so we are in the final stages of punch list and opening up our high school commons. The pop of color in the floor, we have new flooring, new paint throughout. This is of the new space. You can see there on the left-hand side, the restrooms on the right-hand side, looking towards where the Library Media Center used to be. So it's going to be open on day one. Furniture gets delivered on the 11th, and so we'll have new furniture, new flexible space to be used. We also have a new grab-and-go servery called Tiger Bites that's going to have cold and hot grab-and-go things for kids, so it's another serving line. And then when it opens, we will also have a variety of seating opportunities for kids. So high tops, booths, regular cafeteria tables, regular 6-seat rectangles, individual tables, because we've heard that some kids just like to kind of chill over lunch. So actually came from some of our kids. So that'll all be ready to go when kids return. We also have the Lincoln Middle School expansion, and I don't have any other pictures other than this one, because the new graphic went up. And so inside Lincoln Middle School, for those of you who have paid attention to some of the renderings, there are these big wall plates. And so this wall plate is 12 feet wide, does that sound right? 16 feet high, huge graphics that are going to pay homage to the original Edwardsville High School and some of the historic pieces within Lincoln. So I have not seen this in person, I've only seen the picture of it, but I will tell you it's going to add a great touch to the new Lincoln Middle School. I'll talk more about that in just a second. There's also a great graphic that's going to go up. We hope it's there for our grand opening, which I'll fill you in on just a second. We also have the secure entries. We have several of them that have finished up. The one on the left-hand side is the secure entry at Glen Carbon Elementary. The one on the right-hand side is the secure entry at Edwardsville High School. And for those of you who visited the high school last year, this is a huge upgrade. We'll have direct access to the office for individuals who walk into the high school. And in most of our buildings where it was possible, we built direct access in so that you walk straight from the secure entry into the office as you're buzzed into the office, and just limiting access to our student population. So as I said, all those are on track. We're going to be working up till the very last minute to get Woodland Lincoln Drive and everything going on. If you've paid attention to Woodland, at the August 11th meeting, I'll be sure to highlight the new drop-off pickup process for Woodland, because it is night and day different. If you haven't driven by there, the upper parking lot is gone, so they've dropped about 20 feet of grade there. 3,000 truckloads of dirt got hauled out, and they're putting in new asphalt that started getting paved today. So all that on process. I also want to shout out to our facilities and custodial teams. I think our grounds, our buildings have never looked better than they do this year so far. And I appreciate all their hard work and flexibility, because they've had to be super flexible with construction going on at so many buildings. So they've done a great job as well. So we are preparing in the final stages for the return of staff on the 18th of August, for students on the 20th of August, but registration is still ongoing. You just wanted a quick 6539s, our current approved registrations as of, I believe it was Friday. Comparing that to 3 weeks before school started a year ago, that would be 6492. So we're tracking about 40 kids or so ahead as of right now. Of course, that number changes every single day. I took that on Friday, and I think on Saturday we had another 30 folks that had registered. So please go on and complete registration online. Our schools are all back, offices are open, and so they're also communicating and making some phone calls to folks who have not registered. They've also distributed, Marianne's distributed through SMORE, our back to school information that has all key dates, school supply lists, things like that. I have a couple dates to highlight as well. On August the 12th, we believe transportation information should be available in First View. That's still an estimated date, because they're still running routes, and we'll talk about transportation here in a little bit during our agenda. August 15th, elementary teacher assignments will be published. That's a Friday. We also have our mascot welcomes that day for our students entering 3rd, 6th, and 9th grades. As I mentioned, first day for teachers is the 18th. First day for students is the 20th. And then we have all of our open houses. And I put this in the slideshow so that if you want to go back and check the dates, I'm not going to read through them all, dates and times for all of our open houses on the 18th for high school, middle school, and kindergarten. And then on the 19th, our primary and intermediate open houses. There are a couple other events going on at schools. I know every school has kind of their own take on what that looks like, whether it's a popsicle event or a neighborhood drive-by or whatever it is. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So make sure you check out the website and pay attention to the emails that are coming from your building principals. Also excited to announce that August 4th we'll begin new educator orientation, and currently we have 16 new certified staff members that we'll be welcoming. We'll also be in staff professional development on August 18th and 19th, focusing on school safety, beginning of year procedures, things like that. We also still have a few openings in a couple of job categories, but especially in our Kid Zone program, where enrollment's tracking a little bit higher than it has in past years. So if you're interested in working for District 7, check out our website. And we also have a job fair we're hosting for substitutes this Thursday. Is that correct, Dr. Lane? This Thursday, the 31st. Again, the information about that is also available on our website. And then finally, I want to invite everybody in the District 7 community to the Lincoln Middle School grand opening and ribbon cutting on Sunday, August the 31st from 2 to 4 p.m. We realize that's a Sunday of a holiday weekend, but it is the 100th anniversary of the opening of the original Edwardsville High School, which opened on August the 31st, 1925. So you'll start seeing this graphic out on social media postings, things like that. We'll have a brief ribbon cutting ceremony at 2 p.m., and then we'll be having students lead tours throughout the new 60,000 square foot addition and the 1925 first floor renovation. that they are working on right now. So that is on Sunday, August the 31st.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Any questions? Okay.
I'm sorry,
I-
I have just a couple questions on the bathrooms, if I can clarify. It looks sharp, looks great. So I've gotten some feedback from community members that have asked, just for verification, that when we first initially talked about this rollout, commingling boys and girls together to utilizing these restrooms, we had reassuredness that there will be monitors in check. So maybe this is to our new sergeant in place, and we have a plan in action for the rollout of this. So monitors,
Monitors and school safety officers.
okay?
Yep.
And then that'll continue the cadence throughout the whole school
There
year?
are also occupancy lights above every single door,
Okay.
and they're really bright. So the minute you walk in and lock the door, there's also motion detectors inside, so that if for some reason there's no motion after a certain number of time, there's that alerts. We've also roughed in vape sensor, emergency detection kinds of things. So that's the rough-in, not the actual equipment. We haven't settled on the equipment that we like, because we had tried some vape sensors a year and a half or 2 years ago, and they did not work like we wanted them to work.
Okay.
Lots of false notifications, things like that.
Okay. Should a student not feel comfortable utilizing these particular restrooms, but they're closer to their classroom, and they want to go to just the female restroom area, will they be excused from the travel points to where they had to go to get into their
So I'm
classroom?
gonna turn to our kids and see if they can verify what I heard from them last spring, because we talked about restrooms and passing periods, things like that. What I heard that most kids are doing for restroom usage, if they need more time or they need to go to a different restroom, they go to class, check in, and then typically are allowed to go to the restroom and
Yeah.
come back.
There's no restriction to how many times you can
No,
request
as
to go
long
to
as
the
you
restroom.
check in, most teachers are okay.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yep, you bet.
I had on to piggyback on the lights and everything, is that also true for the new Lincoln Middle School renovation
We
bathroom?
did not put the occupancy lights in the middle school
Okay.
renovation.
Okay.
We've talked about looking into some aftermarket, as we did a walkthrough the other day, but I've not heard back on that yet.
And there's 2 of those in.
2 sets.
Okay.
One on second floor, one on first floor.
And then the Tiger Den, the grab and go part, is that free food or how's that?
No, it's purchased just like a la carte. There's also ways they can make a meal out of it. That information will come from food service.
So is there like a checker there, or are they
Uh-huh.
just like at the airport where they?
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Is it like student ID or is it like actual like money?
Student ID like my school bucks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. At this time, Clara Johnson will provide the junior student representative report.
There's not much really going on since it's summer, so I have just some important dates that everyone should keep a lookout for. The 3rd, 6th, and 9th grade mascot welcomes happens on Friday, August 15th, and if you're looking for more information on that, your building principal should be giving some out soon, or if they have already, then go check that out. And then open house times, Monday, August 18th. Hamel is from 5 to 6 p.m. Nelson, Goshen, Glen Carbon, and LeClaire are from 6 to 7:30. Midway is 6:30 to 7:30, and Lincoln and Liberty are 6 to 7:30 p.m. And then the first day of attendance is the 20th. That's all I have.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, and now Josie Proctor will give the senior student representative.
I don't have much more than that.
Yep, that's fine.
It's crazy that we're already thinking about school again.
Yeah.
So school begins on August 20th, like she said, with a half day, which means dismissal for EHS will be at 10:15. Schedules for EHS students come out on August 8th and also for the middle schools. EHS seniors should have received an email detailing pictures and registration. Senior yearbook photos will be taken August 14th, 15th, 18th, and 19th, along with underclassmen. Seniors are asked to dress in a dressy, casual attire. This email also included a link for senior recognition yearbook ads and yearbook purchases. 15 students from EHS recently took a trip to Germany with our German-American Partnership Program, accompanied by Mr. Antrim and Miss House. They stayed with host families and had the opportunity to take part in different German activities and join local celebrations, including a citywide parade for the town's 950th anniversary. Congratulations to the Tigers cross-country team for running a great Mud Mountain road race. Thank you to all the volunteers and runners. The 2025 homecoming date was released earlier this month. The dance will fall on October 18th this year, with the week before full of homecoming activities. More about this night will be posted at a later date. EHS is having their annual Tiger Welcome on August 15th to welcome new EHS students. This includes an informational video, Q&A, tour, and ID picture taking, as well as device pickup. If you have any questions, feel free to contact Jill Gibson or me. If you are a club or activity that would like to be featured in our activity fair for Tiger Welcome, please DM Orange Rush on Instagram or contact Jill Gibson. EHS is having their open house on August 18th, 5 to 6:30, where students can come and walk their schedules and meet their teachers. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, does any board member have a report to share? Nope. Okay. Well, then we'll move to the recognition portion of the agenda. At this time, I'd like to introduce Amy Boscolo, Athletic Director at Edwardsville High School, who will recognize the EHS boys track for their accomplishments.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Shelton, President Patey, members of the board, thank you so much for having us. Today we get to recognize our boys track and field program at EHS. Chad Lakatos is a good one. We are so lucky to have Chad to lead our boys. The season was filled with adversity, but hard work and determination. And Chad's gonna let you know a little bit more, but from the success of our seniors to the success of some of our incoming kids, absolutely unbelievable. So Chad, go ahead, take it away.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Amy. And I'd also like to thank Billy Herman, Mr. Fox, Dr. Shelton, District 7 Board, and our school board president, Bob Patey. I'd also like to thank our coaching staff. I know it's the summer, so not many are here, not any of them actually, but Coach Holler, Coach Patrolak, Coach Bailey, Coach Foster, and Coach Neville. It wouldn't be possible to have the success of our program without top-notch coaches. So I'd like to thank the board and our district for allowing us to have that. As Amy said, our team goal this season, we had a lot of success coming in. We wanted to win a state championship. We wanted to come in back-to-back. While we fell short of that mark, the journey was far from a failure as we faced many different adversities throughout the season with injuries and just different things when dealing with kids. But through it all, we remained undefeated at every major invitational, including conference and sectional. So we rallied to score 2017 points at the IHSA state meet and placed 5th as a team, marking our 8th top 5 finish in the past decade, including 3 of those being a state championship, which is pretty impressive. We qualified 16 events to the state meet, and 7 of those to the state finals. I'm going to run through the state qualifiers, as we don't have many of the kids here, but guys, as I call your name, if you would come down. So these were our state qualifiers: Gino Montgomery in the triple jump, Eli Gilmore in the pole vault, Javion Smith in the disc, Gavin Stukenberg in the shot put, Yosei Epinesa in the shot put, Brandon Houston in the 110 hurdles. Sincere is here, so come on down. Sincere qualified in the 100 and 200. He also was on the 4x2 and 4x1. Our 4x2 qualified, Darren Wilson is here. Come on down. And Dean Williams was on that team, Jeremy Lyles, Maj Ahmad, and Clayton Lakatos. Zach Lane was an alternate on that team, so come on, Zach. And then Patrick Chisholm. Our 4x8 qualified, Colin Thomas, Cooper Wittick, Declan Hefferlin, Jackson Amick. Alternates were Parker Weaver, Colin Lukejohn, Taylor Davis, and Ryder Shickadance. None of those guys could make it this evening. They did qualify the 4x8 to the finals. They placed 10th. I think they were like 1 second off of getting 9th place. Our all-state honors was Devion Hill Lomax, and high jump he placed 9th. Parker Owens is here. Come on down. Parker Owens placed third in the pole vault and became the first freshman in EHS school history to score in an individual event. And I think we're going to hear a lot more of Parker as the years in front of us. Clayton Lacadas placed sixth in the 200 and third in the 100. He did set the school record at the state finals running 10:51. And then our 4x1 team placed second. They ran 41:10, and it's the third fastest time in the state history of track and field competition. Darren Wilson led the team off. Sincere was our second leg. Clayton, my son, was third leg, and then Zach Lane anchored us. Our alternates for that was Patrick Chisholm, Steve Moore, Jeremy Lyles, and Maj Hamad. So let's give these guys a round of applause. Thank you for the opportunity to recognize our athletes.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Okay. We are entering the section of the meeting where we recognize the special guests, students who have excelled and provide the opportunity for visitors to address the school board. We're out of order here, sorry. At this time, Hillary Duncan will, assistant principal at Lincoln Middle School, recognize the Lincoln Middle School boys track for their accomplishments.
Thank you. As Mr. Patey said, I'm Hillary Duncan. I'm assistant principal and athletic director at Lincoln Middle School. Thank you to the board and the administration for having us this evening. I'm going to be introducing our 2025 track coaches, and they will be introducing our individual medalists and 7th grade boys track team who placed second at IESA State. We're incredibly proud of this group, and they have come so far. So our coaches here this evening are Mr. Mark Schutte, Mr. Ryan Packett, and Mr. Nolan Weber. I believe Mark is going to be introducing the girl individual medalists.
All right, thank you. It's probably not on camera, but it will be soon. First of all, I want to apologize to the board. I'm obviously extremely underdressed. Coach Packett sticks out like a sun, a beacon of orange. It's great to see. He borrowed that from me, so you're welcome. I want to also extend my thanks to Dr. Shelton and the board and district administration for allowing us to celebrate and recognize these middle school athletes. It's been a tremendous year for both boys and girls. Although tonight we're going to celebrate our individual girls that placed at state, it's not forgotten that our team is 150 plus kids, and that every second that the kids get better, every foot that they throw further, every foot that they jump further is celebrated. We appreciate building their confidence and passion for the sport. We can't wait to have the talented 7th grade team back, and we can't wait to see what the 8th graders are going to be capable of next year at the high school. This year we had a spectacular season. Our girls team were the 7th grade conference champions, and they also took home the 7th grade and 8th grade sectional championships. Today with us, we have several of our athletes who performed extremely well at state. Both 7th and 8th grade teams had an exceptional state performance. Out of 54 teams that participated, we placed top 10, both 7th and 8th grade. Today with us, we have Layla Wilson. Layla is a 7th grader, and she placed 4th in hurdles, setting the school record of 16:59. We keep records for the last 20 years, and Layla's now in our record books. You'll hear her name again, actually mentioned competing at the 8th grade level as well. We also have with us Audrey Floyd. Audrey is a 7th grade athlete who ran the 1600. Audrey ran the mile in 5:23:33 at state, which is an incredible time, breaking our school record by 9 seconds.
Wow. Wow.
We also have with us Chloe Miller. She's a 7th grader. Chloe started high jumping about maybe a month and a half before state and ended up clearing 4:11. You will hear her name next year, guaranteed for breaking school records and entering our record books. We are also medaled in the 8th grade 4x1 relay, consisting of Camilla Zerlini, Layla Wilson, Laren Smith, and Layla Roundtree. They also set our school record running 52:04 and placed 2nd at state. Layla's already down here. In 8th grade, we also have Camilla Zerlini. Camilla placed 4th, also breaking our school record in long jump. Camilla jumped 16 feet, 4 1/4 inches. And finally, we have with us Quinn Neal. Quinn placed in 8th grade high jump. She placed 5th place, jumping 4.9, and she also is tied with the record for pole vault at 8 feet. So these athletes performed wonderfully. I want to end by saying with 150 athletes, it really takes a great dedicated group of people to make it happen. Coach Packett, Coach Weber, Coach Olau have been incredible to these kids. We do not, although technically I'm a girls coach, we do not separate it like that. We all work together to make it happen. Also, we want to thank Mrs. Duncan and Miss Amy Biscolo. Both of them have been absolutely integral in helping us, especially hosting the larger meets. We host conference and sectionals. It really does take a village to make this run, and we appreciate them very much. In addition, all of the high school coaches come out and help those meets as well, so we want to extend our thanks to them. But most importantly, thank you to the athletes for making this such a memorable season.
Yeah. Good job. It's all right. Thanks, Mark.
Where'd the mic go? Oh, there it is. Okay.
All right. I'm Ryan Packett, the head boys coach at Lincoln Middle School, and I'd like to thank the board for having us tonight and Dr. Shelton for sure. My goal wasn't to make Coach Schutte feel inferior, but if that's what I did, I'll take it. The true story behind it is that the boys asked if they had finished top 4 that I would wear this tonight, and I'm fulfilling my obligation in that part. So.
Good job.
So we're here tonight to recognize the boys' 7th grade team who finished 2nd at state. This is the best finish that Lincoln has ever had for the boys' track team, so we are very proud of you guys. It is a tremendous accomplishment. We'd like to thank our administrators at Lincoln, Mr. Corey, Miss Duncan, and Miss Anderson. We'd like to thank our athletic director at Lincoln, also Miss Duncan, and thank the athletic directors at the high school, Miss Biscolo and Mr. Herman. This was a very difficult year without having a track at Lincoln, so being able to utilize high school facilities, Share practice time at RP Lumber with the varsity boys and girls teams was huge, and we couldn't have done this without that. So thank you so much for the cooperation and making this work. I'd like to thank Coach Chadlikatis, Coach Howard, and all of the high school coaches for your mentorship and your countless hours you give us providing us a track to host conference and sectionals. We could not do it without the high school track, and also being there and volunteering your time to help run these events so that we can coach our athletes. We greatly appreciate that. I'd like to thank the girls' head coach, Coach Olau, Coach Mark Schutte, Coach Weber, and our volunteer assistant this year, Coach Redden. All of you guys were so important to this happening. So thanks, everyone. Your fingerprints are all over this. Now on to the boys that made this happen. I'm just so proud of you guys for what you did this year. Finishing second place, having to practice at different places every day. You guys didn't complain about it once. And even when it got difficult for the coaches, when the athletes aren't complaining, then we are not able to complain ourselves either. So we all held ourselves accountable. You guys were incredibly mature young men throughout the season, and I'm so proud of you guys for that. This could not have happened without every single one of you. We finished second at state, and we scored in, I believe, 7 different events with 14 boys there. That is phenomenal and unheard of. And without each and every one of you, we would not have finished where we did. Every single one of you mattered. Quickly, I want to run through our state finishers, and then after that, I'll call you guys down and introduce you one by one. But Howie Ondiwa finished third in the 400-meter dash for us. Evan Hernandez finished 4th in the 800-meter dash and set our school record. Preston Brown finished 6th in the 1600-meter run. Ryder Aholt finished 3rd in high jump. Harrison Manthe, a 6th grader, finished 6th in shot put. Our 4x2 relay got 6th place, and that consists of Elijah Ammons, Jaden Maurer, Howie Ondiwa, Jordan Fenderson, Jackson Pashtag, and Braxton Parnell. And our 4x4 finished 2nd place, and that consisted of Howie Ondiwa, Jackson Pashtag, Jordan Fenderson, Jaden Maurer, Evan Hernandez, and John Beck-Callard, and that was also a school record. And when that race concluded, which was the final race of the day, that was the only time all weekend we were in 2nd place. So you guys clutched up. Now I will introduce each boy of the 7th grade boys' 2nd place finish for Lincoln Middle School. So I'll start with the 3 that aren't here, and that's Jaden Maurer, who does the 4x2 and 4x4, Howie Ondiwa, who did the 400-meter dash, 4x2 and 4x4, and Jack Cox, who was in the 4x1. Now I'll move to the boys that are here. So we'll start with Ryder Aholt, who finished 3rd in high jump and was in our 4x100-meter relay. Elijah Ammons, who was in our 6th place finishing 4x2. Braxton Parnell, who was in our 4x1 and our 6th place finishing 4x2. Preston Brown, who finished 6th in the 1600-meter run. John Beck-Callard, who was on our 2nd place 4x4. Jordan Fenderson, who was on our 6th place 4x2 and 2nd place 4x4. Evan Hernandez, 4th place in the 800 school record. Maddock Irwin, 4x1. Harrison Manthe, shot put, 6th place. Sam Popsel, 4x1. And Jackson Pashtag, long jump, 4x1, 4x2, and 2nd place, 4x4. All right, what I want to leave you guys with is just remember, this couldn't have been done without each and every one of you. All right, all of you were so important to this happening. And while I hope this isn't the peak of your athletic career, I hope that you remember this forever and what you guys accomplished together. With that being said, stay hungry because we got another year together.
All right.
Okay. So at this time, I would like to introduce State Representative Katie Stewart, who has a special recognition.
Thank you, and I'm sorry that I haven't been able to get to meetings prior. Monday evenings are difficult because we're frequently in Springfield preparing for session on a Tuesday and reviewing bills and doing all that stuff. But when we knew that this was happening tonight, this is near and dear to my heart. Both of my kids came through Edwardsville. Both of them were not as successful as these individuals. My daughter's a little better than my son, which we like to rub in all the time. But the track and cross-country experiences that you guys provide, the coaches and the administrators and Ms. Boscola and everybody else are just, it's phenomenal. You're setting these kids up for wonderful futures. I know that the lessons that my kids learned through their time with these programs have made all the difference in them becoming really successful and involved adults. And I know I don't possibly look like it, but I definitely do have adult children. So I have a couple of certificates to recognize the teams and the coaches. I am going to get individual certificates for you guys, and I will work with your coaches and athletic directors and everyone to get those delivered once school starts again. I figured in the mayhem of school starting, I didn't want to put one more thing on anybody's plate because I'm a former teacher myself and I know how crazy that can be. But thank you for having me here tonight, and thank you. I know that every meeting you're recognizing excellence because we have such great, excellent students and teachers. So hopefully I can get back for more of these. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. At this time, the board has set aside time for anyone wishing to address the board. I would like to remind our public that this portion of the meeting for a maximum of 60 minutes time is reserved for comments from the public in accordance with policy 230, public participation at Board of Education meeting, and petition to the board as follows. This will be the only opportunity to address the board during the regular meeting. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. A screen timer will be provided. Individuals may not defer their time to another speaker. If your comments are about matters involving students or district personnel, please refrain from disclosing names. Please understand that the board will not respond to questions made during public comments, but may direct the superintendent to address these questions in a district communication or at a subsequent board meeting. Please remember that the board generally needs to gather additional information about any questions or concerns prior to responding or or taking action. At the conclusion of the meeting, if you have additional questions for the board, please see the board secretary. And I have 2 names on the list that signed up. Craig Becker.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Mhm.
please.
Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Shelton. My name is Craig Becker, and I live at 800 St. Louis Street here in Edwardsville. And I'd like to thank Dr. Shelton and the members of the board for this opportunity to speak with you tonight. I think it was about 3 years ago when I last was here before this board on a similar mission. Then my motivation was to ask that board not to follow their initial impulse to demolish the entire Lincoln Middle School complex, including that original 1925 building designed by noted local architect E.M. Kane, which you're going to be honoring in a month or so. And I'm glad it's going to be there and not some hole in the ground. Over the decades, that building has been enhanced and enlarged to grow with the needs of the ever-increasing high school population and to meet the district's mission to provide excellence in secondary education. I am a proud product of that mission, class of 1972. So 3 years ago, I proudly and not too loudly raised my voice and, like others, asked that board reconsider that initial impulse to come up with an alternative solution, a solution that was more respectful to our community and our shared local history. And with community input, they ultimately did. A solution that almost everybody could feel good about, one that recognizes, integrates, and fully appreciates the significance of that version of EHS and the role it played in our community history. And so I thank you for that. But it seems that I am once again compelled to come before you, the members of this current district board, to champion the cause for yet another historically and culturally significant building in Edwardsville, over which you, once again, have stewardship. One of Edwardsville's oldest and finest architectural landmarks, Hadley House. Dr. Sheldon, at a board meeting earlier this year, you and former board president Jill Bertels indicated that you wanted to provide transparency to the community on the condition of the house as alternative ideas for its continued use as a District 7 facility were actively under consideration. And you were good to your word. In late June, you gave a small group of us an extensive and very enlightening tour of the now mostly deserted building. You offered what I believe to be a reasonable explanation as to why Hadley House, acquired by the board in 1954, can no longer meet the needs of the district as a functional workplace for the dedicated and hardworking administrative staff of District 7. And at the conclusion of your tour, you reassured all of us that although the district had not yet come up with a practical future use of the building, it was absolutely committed to keeping the property. That was June. It is now my understanding that the district is actively pursuing outside buyers for Hadley House. If this is the case, I am here tonight with a request I have made before. Reconsider your plan. Again, I ask you to come up with a creative use for Hadley House that honors the legacy of that building and ultimately preserves and protects its status as an irreplaceable local landmark. It is undeniably a unique property with some challenges. I am only asking, as you did with the Lincoln Middle School Initiative, that you come up with a unique solution to keep Hadley House in the family where it has been and where it belongs. For now, for the future, and for Edwardsville. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Megan Reichman.
I need glasses, it's sad. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to address the board. I have an incoming sophomore at EHS and a 7th grader here at Liberty. Like many parents of high schoolers, I've been closely following the discussion around adding a 7th hour. My high schooler sings in chamber choir and is about to start taking German, which means he's stuck doing summer school, early bird classes, or both. And as a member of the EHS tennis team, he falls into that both category. You already know the burden that summer school and early bird classes place on students and families, and you're working to change that. But the reason I'm here tonight is simple. It's not happening fast enough. I didn't grow up here. My high school had 8 class periods. I was in marching band, I took 6 years of Spanish, and I had room for all of the electives I wanted, which helped me to discover my eventual college major. Clearly, schools have long known how to accommodate high-achieving students. Kids like my son make this district shine. He works hard, he gets excellent grades, he played varsity tennis as a freshman, he sings in your top choir. I am deeply appreciative of the coaches, teachers, and administrators who make this possible. But one stakeholder getting left out of your process is parents. The hoops I jump through to make these opportunities available to my child are exhausting. It seems every piece of this system is being considered except us. In a place like Edwardsville, yes, parents will do almost anything to support their kids, but we are being stretched too thin. Your slow pace and lack of execution are breeding frustration where there should be partnership. Look at Liberty's new Circle Drive. Summer school logistics were already difficult, and then that was added on top. It's a small thing, but it symbolizes how little our time and effort seem to matter to you. We are an affluent, intelligent, capable community. It is past time to align our high school structure with those of our peers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there anybody else that would like to speak? Sir.
Good evening, Jacob Goebel, father of a student at the district, but here to talk about, I don't know how much affiliation the school has with the EHS trap team, but back in June 27th and 28th, you had 2 teams for junior varsity for doubles and junior varsity for singles that's got first place in the state tournament. Just want to know if the board was kind of willing to reach out and maybe honor those students. EHS trap has grown quite a bit. My son shot for 4 years. When league started, there was 3 squads. Now we're up to 5 squads on league plus practice nights, so it's a growing sport. And just like to see those kids get their due for the hard work they put in. Thank you.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Before we move on, I'd like to say thank you for taking the time to speak to us. While we were unable to address your comments at this time, please know that the board will have a conversation with administrators about the topics you brought up tonight. You should expect to hear from Dr. Shelton or an appropriate staff member by phone or email. Okay, moving on to our approval of consent agenda items. Would any board member like to remove any consent agenda item for separate action? Okay. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items as recommended this evening.
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll say.
Thank you. Awesome. Any discussion? Carrie, please call the roll.
Was it you, Sarah?
Yes, thank you.
Bauer?
Yes.
Bryan?
Yes.
Sanderson?
Yes.
Ahart?
Yes.
Patey?
Yes. Okay. Sorry, got to scroll down to the next thing. Okay, at this time, Dr. Shelton, provide a 2023 bond update. I had to make sure I had the year right there.
Yeah, 2023.
Seems like a long time ago.
So a couple updates and a little forecasting of a couple things to come. As you know, we're completing, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the bond projects from phase 1 especially. So at this point, we have 4 projects that are remaining. We have Hamel abatement and reconstruction of classrooms, and we'll be bringing a pre-con thought to the board probably at the August 11th meeting, if not in September, that will take several million out of the bond. We then have the 3 phase 2 priorities, which are in this order: playgrounds, gyms, media center, and wanted to just open up a discussion for the board about the information that you might need to make a decision on which of those we move forward with out of the phase 2 projects. We presented an early estimate for what a media center price would be. We have not done anything in design for a Columbus gym, but we do have an early price just based on square footages of roughly $9 million for a Columbus gym, and that would be on the back side of Columbus with a connector into the 1885 section where the 4th grade is housed. And we've not done anything to really estimate on playgrounds other than we've done one recently and we know what that one cost. So I just need a little direction from the board on what information you might need, whether it's through design, through exploration, through conversations with vendors, to bring something to the board to help the decision-making process.
Okay. I'll let y'all start if you
I'll
want.
start.
Okay.
So the priority of the projects, I went back because we weren't on the board at that time. So I kind of sent you an email ahead of time so you were properly prepared. But I went back as far as I could, watched all the videos, was impressed by the amount of community engagement that you had in the phase 1 projects. And it sounds like you're on track for the phase 1 projects, but what I didn't see is Hamel on there. And from what I could tell by meeting minutes and presentations, there seems to be a super need for Hamel. We have asbestos. One board member said it's been recognized since, I believe it was 2016 or 18. There's the pods. Our architect said the pods aren't constructive to our learning environment. The gym is not serviceable to what our needs right now. And the bond update had that phased in to where they could do the construction while the kids were in session, and then afterwards put the kids over on the construction side. It also offered an opportunity to expand early education because you said there was a need for early education out there. So out of all the details and all the stuff that I've seen, all the board updates, it always says to be determined. And I believe the previous quote, your previous bid was 18 million, is that correct? A little over 18 million. What has been done to get Hamel up to speed for the rest of the district? Because I see a lot of movement down south here, and I'm concerned about north.
Yeah, so that's what I just mentioned that I'll bring in August or September is a plan to abate everything at Hamel, sprinkle the building because that's something that hasn't been done. It was done in the addition, what was, Dave, 15 years ago? They sprinkled that section, but they didn't sprinkle the pod or the cafeteria section.
When you say sprinkle, what do you mean?
Put in sprinkler system, fire suppression.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not just.
No, it's fire suppression. And so that's what we've been working on architects on. The original 18 million cost that came in was a new Hamel on the east side, and part of that general conditions didn't really allow for us to do both at the same time, which made the price outside of the scope. So we wanted to go back and look at the pods, and so part of this is reconstructing the inside of the pods, essentially gutting and creating classrooms so that we can continue to expand classroom space. It does not address the gym.
Okay.
But that is something we could look at if that's what the board wants us to do.
Well, the plans called for a gym, and I go back to the bond promises that were promised, and I realize you can't tell the future, and I realize you can't tell what rates go and what happens, but the promises were made that we have enough money for all projects that were on there. And then later on, when we start to realize how things are gonna cost, that went to all priority 1 projects can be afforded. And Hamel was still considered priority 1 projects. But then we start to move into an immense discussion into a media center, which was literally the last thing on the list. And I don't know how we got there. And I'd like some kind of priority explanation on how we went from omitting what's up north to what's down here.
So we've always held a placeholder for Hamel. So we've always held a dollar amount in phase 1 projects. So we've never let go of that dollar amount.
That dollar amount is $3 million.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. It was not for a new gym, the new expansion. It was to renovate, abate, and do everything on the pod side.
Okay.
Because that's what we see as the need right now. The playgrounds were removed from phase 2 because we have playground equipment that's really not ready to be demolished. And that's what we're going to end up, if we end up doing playgrounds, that's what we will do, is we'll take some equipment that's been invested in. And so we thought, number one, we can do that through our O&M budget over the course of time, and we can do it as playground equipment is in need. Now, what that doesn't address is accessibility. It doesn't address pea gravel. It doesn't address equipment that has been phased in, because what our playgrounds are kind of conglomeration of equipment that gets placed there by PTOs and building budgets, things like that. So it's not all just a one-size-fits-all model. It can be if that's the direction we want to go. The phase 2 priority discussions were held with the previous board. And that's where the media center, we talked about media center, gym, because really those were the only 2 left, but we can only do 1. And so at that point, we had the direction to pursue media center just to see what design would look like, what cost would be, and now we're back talking about all 3 projects and how we want to proceed.
So I did find where, we're moving, like you said, the playground equipment into the O&M budget. But over the next 3 to 5 years, it said to complete that total overhaul. And I understand the equipment doesn't need to be replaced, but I didn't know if we could pour the rubberized playground part in place while those are there.
Yeah. The way it works is they essentially regrade the space and put in new drainage, because so that the water kind of goes through.
Gotcha.
So there's new drain tile and things that go underneath. There's an infrastructure that goes with it.
Okay.
And then the playground equipment gets put in, and then the poured-in surface goes in.
So it's not just a quick one and done.
It's not.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you for that.
Correct. But I think one of the things we can do is every single playground is a different cost. And we talked about Columbus, but there are some that are going to be way cheaper than Columbus, and there's a couple that are going to be way more expensive because there's retaining walls and things like that go into it. So that is not anything we've explored, other than we kind of know what equipment would cost, but we don't have the estimates on the other things or designs.
Gotcha. Now, I'm sorry if somebody's got something else. I just have.
You keep going.
No, okay.
You're on a roll. You're good.
So on to the Columbus gym. You said we're into this gym or media center kind of thing of what's left. The issue that I see is I'm familiar with the gym. I've been there 100 times. I've done the safety checks there. I'm familiar with the issues that are there. The public should be aware with the presentations of, basically you have the end of the basketball court and then a wall. And then there's poles that are covered in padding, so kids don't get hurt. Our architect during this whole planning process even recommended it's just a matter of time. Yourself recommended it's just a matter of time. And I see us pushing a lot of money towards EHS, and it's benefiting EHS. And that's just like, to me, that's the end game of where all kids may, if they're still in the district, may benefit. But we're forgetting about the lower ones, the ones that bring them to the point of EHS. And I'm concerned that all these projects that keep happening, that we don't pay attention to the lower ones. So I know we had a lot of talk over this media center and the need for it, and I'm by no means saying any project is a bad idea, because they're all great ideas, and they're all needed in the district. But the people have spoken on the priorities. The surveys are there, the answers are there, and the gym ranks a lot higher than the media center. So if you're asking for my direction, it would be continue to follow the recommendations made by the community that's there, rather than to go what the district as the board thinks we ought to go with. Anybody else so far?
I mean, do y'all want to add anything? I mean, I'm going to kind of echo a lot of what Matt said. I mean, from my perspective, I'm not necessarily saying that all playgrounds need to be addressed. I mean, because obviously, to your point, some equipment doesn't have to be, but I do think that there are a couple of playgrounds that definitely, I mean, I know Warden definitely, I know Nelson definitely, I mean, are and then I think there's others that we have some accessibility ADA concerns about. I mean, I think all those need to be,
And let me just add a caveat that because of the scope of Lincoln, we have no idea where we'll end up from a cost perspective, and we could get to the end of Lincoln. If you remember phase 1 of Lincoln, we got a little over $1 million back from that, from S.M. Wilson. So in a credit. So it's very likely we'll get to the very end of Lincoln and still have money to do something, but not the scope of a gym but playgrounds for sure.
Right.
And having a plan for that, I think, is something we've projected since 27.
Be very careful how you said that.
Correct.
So we're not expecting to go over.
No.
We're just we know there's an opportunity.
There's an opportunity.
Of money that we had set aside for Lincoln
Correct.
that would be available to do other stuff.
Correct.
Okay.
And we know it will be anywhere from, smaller to larger playground kind of size. The one thing, and I say this a lot about grants, and I said the other day about a bond, I don't ever want to get to the end of the project and be over, but I also don't want to be way under. I want to make sure we have a plan for everything that could come across.
So, as when we talk about the Lincoln project, again, during my whole, trying to figure this whole thing out, being new to the board, and I know the community, that they're wanting to know too. I get asked all the time, I'm sure everybody else does, but when we talk about the project and I see all the updates that was provided to the board and made public, and we start to get into the original estimates, the actual estimates, the updates, and then the final costs. And most of them right now are going over. And from all the presentations when we tried to sell this bond idea to the public was, we can afford all these projects, we have a 20 to 30% contingency built in, and we're estimated a 6% increase per year. But very well said, the longer it takes to complete these projects, the more expensive that they're gonna get. So I understand that, but when you say we get $1 million back, and our phase one project in 2024, the BOE bond update was $40 million. In 2025, the numbers that were reported to us was $44 million. All right, so to me, that's a $4 million overage. Now, if we got $1 million back, it's still over. We still went past where we should. The Lincoln Phase 2 project, the final project estimate is $52 million, and that puts us at $97 million, when our original estimate was $83 million. So I don't see an underage, I see an overage, and that's just me as a layman's term looking at it, and I'm sure.
I don't have the numbers in front of me.
Okay.
What I can tell you in process is when we go through the bidding process, we get what's considered what we call a GMP. So as we get to the final design and we're getting ready to bid, the contractor comes back to us and says, we have a guaranteed maximum price that the project will not go over. So that's a guarantee from the contractor. That's considering all the subcontracts that have come into play. So that's plumbing, drywall, roofing, foundation, concrete work. And that GMP is our maximum price. We will not go over that price. Anything that goes over that price, we go on the contractor, not on the district.
Okay.
I can't speak to the numbers because I don't have them in front of me on what the GMP was or what the bids came in at. I think one of the things to remember is that there's always fees involved. So it could be that we quoted a construction price in one slideshow and it didn't include architecture and engineering fees, which is part of it, permitting, builder's risk insurance, things like that. But I can't speak to any of that right now because I don't have those numbers in front of me.
Okay, I'm mainly concerned, we preach at the beginning of each meeting, we put our slides up there with our mission and vision, and integrity is on one of them. And I'm worried about the integrity of, we're telling the public this one thing, oh, this is only $83 million. And we haven't even gotten in the track yet, but this is the amount that we're gonna spend, and the next thing you know, from 83 to $97 million, that's a 17% increase.
Sure.
And that concerns me, and we're not even done yet. So the secure entries, I applaud you for doing those. I've been fighting since 2016 to get those. I can't thank you enough for getting those. And you actually came in under budget on those, as well as Midway. But I've already addressed Hamel on there, and I see the $18 million original estimate, and I see the $3 million earmark for it. And I don't know, I'm concerned about the direction of getting Hamel done and getting the gym done, or how long it will take to get these projects done. And that's my concern. I yield.
And Matt, I'm happy to bring back updated costs to the August meeting so we can all operate off the same cost structure of where we are. We did that, I think it was right before the board election, was it? We did one this spring.
Yeah.
So we bring back GMP and kind of where we see things right now. And we've got that so Lincoln was divided into 2 different phases, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
We've got phase 1 done. So phase 1 is signed, sealed, and delivered. Phase 2, we don't have an update right now. We'll have commons, we'll have secure entries, we'll have obviously Midway, and then we can have that conversation about Hamel and kind of where things are.
Okay. And I apologize, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
No, you're good.
if I have these questions, I know the public does, and I think we as a new board need to increase our transparency. And I think we need to communicate these numbers, and, you know, we do throw up all the pictures and say, this is great, but we're not talking about cents and dollars here.
Sure.
And I think that we need to increase our transparency to our stakeholders, because as we've talked, our property taxes are all going up, and we're all worried about what the next dollar is going to happen. And, you know, to somebody who's blessed like myself, you know, that impacts me. It takes, you know, a little bit of food off my table, but my large concern is for those who are on limited or fixed incomes. And so if we can limit our expenses and keep these numbers down just a little bit, we don't need the vanity projects or the digest version. And so I would like those numbers updated, and I would like those numbers to be pushed out to the community.
Yeah, Dave and I can have an update at the regular August meeting on the 24th.
I mean, to get back to your question though, of what you need to be able to get, I mean, I agree with Matt. I mean, the first thing is the priority, you know, kind of looking at priority. And then, I mean, I think if we're going to go through and say that we're not going to do every playground, then we need to at least understand which playgrounds are and aren't, and make sure that, you know, if there is money to get to Columbus Gym and that direction, you know, kind of what the push and pull. I mean, I think obviously it's hard to say, you know, we've got an estimate over here and then we make decisions on stuff that we don't have estimates for. So I'm not quite sure the level of effort to get the estimates that allow us to make that informed decision, but I think that's kind of what we're driving to.
Mm-hmm.
So. I don't know
Anything from this side of the table?
I would like to see what, for the OMM, what the plan is for which playgrounds, like X playground this year, whichever. And you may have sent something, I think I
We had a
remember
playground
something about that
assessment done, so we
before.
talked about the equipment of the
Yeah.
playground, the kind of the size of them.
Yeah.
We can certainly try to put a ballpark number together without going too deep, just to give an idea.
Yeah, but even then,
Yeah,
I
we
mean, I
discussed
kind of shy.
The January board retreat, it was discussed and there was outline for the projection plan.
Yeah, but even then, I mean, I know there's talk about playgrounds and O&M, but I still view, I mean, if we're talking about it with regard to the priorities, we're talking about bond money. We're not talking about O&M. So, you know, that's kind of like factored into that. You know, I mean, maybe there are some that are low enough that we could use O&M and it's not that huge of an impact. But I mean, from a bond money, and I know we're getting to some of those
I
conversations.
thought in the recent board retreat, we discussed that we were taking playgrounds out of O&M.
Yes.
It was in like in a paren.
We
or
did.
something.
Yeah, I
We did. I
just
think
want to make
that's-
sure, but I mean, it got brought up again as O&M, and so I just want to make sure that we're discussing that, so.
And that does not fall under health, life, safety, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm done with that.
Okay. So I will bring back phase one costs to revisit in August. And then we'll have an update on Hamel at either the August work session or September work session, one of those two.
And sort of where we're at as far as contingencies and all that
Yep.
for Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next topic. Dr. Shelton, please give us your transportation update.
So if you have registered your children, you would know this, and if you don't, stop listening because you get to find out when you register your kids. But this year, when we asked people in registration we also sent out a question of how often will you plan to use transportation. So the interesting thing about transportation is it's a semi-new system every year. So every year there are different students that are enrolled. There are new stops that have to happen. We use a lot of the same structures, but what we're talking about with what we're working toward for transportation is a whole new system. And the problem is the data set we had from last year now is no longer good. Now we have to have a new data set. So we've got a structure set up, and we'll continue to take data every month. And so the goal is this fall to have a preliminary look at what transportation could look like. So bus routes from all over the district. I know one of the things we're talking about is the connector routes in the north area, and are those really needed? Because that's takes 2 buses to run a connector route. So students go from middle school to Hamel, Hamel to home, or middle school to Midway, Midway to home. So we're looking at those routes. We're looking at how do we get that to be more efficient. So that could include some dynamic routing where a student maybe signs up for a bus, but then only gets routed when they sign up for a bus. And so that's going to then push on registration next year, because obviously we can't wait until August 13th to hear that, hey, I need a bus, or I registered my child and they need a bus, because school starts a week later, or hopefully a week earlier. So, so we'll have an update this fall on what that could look like. Right now, it's important that we get that information registration, and currently the numbers of folks who are indicating they need a bus is running about the percentage that we saw last year, which is good. It means the data is coming in solid. We'll also continue to do bus audits. So once a month, we ask each bus driver to acknowledge which students were specifically on their bus, so that that gives us up-to-date data as well. We've seen a couple fluctuations here and there. One of them was in October, middle school ridership went way up. And we were talking with the folks that we work with, and they're like, why would middle school go up in October? Well, fall sports are done, right? So cross country, baseball, all that is done when you get to October. So helping understand all of that. So the goal this fall is to bring something back to the board, October, November-ish, in terms of this is what it could look like. We're continuing to vet those routes, and then have a decision on whether we can change transportation for fall by December, January.
So, the board, I guess, time and everything is moving together here, but March, April timeframe, when we were having discussion about the resolution for 7-period day and everything, changing of the transportation, the start of the school period, everything's kind of connected.
It is.
And I think as we've kind of gone through the conversations, it seems like it really kind of starts with transportation.
It does.
So part of the challenge is the testing, to your point of getting the data and all that kind of stuff. So when you're saying, I'm trying to provide some color just because we've been having some conversations in other meetings that we have to get, if we are going to do a transportation that facilitates a 7-period day, that potentially is requiring a merging of tiers.
Correct.
So that merging of tiers is a very complicated thing. It's, you've got to get it right. But we don't want to do that at the same time that we're pulling all these other levers at the same time that are dependent upon that being done right. And so we want to make sure that that's done right. So that's why we're going through, I think what I'm trying to discern from what you're saying is that we're trying to get to that point. I guess my question is, we had a conversation as a board, the previous board, I think when Randy from SIUE came in and talked about the study that they've worked on, and Bill Miner and everybody were here talking about it. They already had a lot of data that was driving a lot of the decisions that we're talking about, that they were already suggesting that we could start getting some savings on mileages and stuff. Have we actually provided First Student with any of that data for them to look at and start going through?
We have, yes, we have. And Bill has been working with First Student on potential routing. I think he gave them a list of stops that were not used at all last year that we could eliminate out of our routing. And so because Edwardsville is a unique community in terms of geographic footprint. So if you are, for example, let's say that there was a stop on Meridian Road that wasn't used at all last year, but the bus is going all the way down Meridian Road to Somerset to turn around and come back, it doesn't help to eliminate that stop.
Right.
But if you are going up to Dorsey to pick up a student and all this, and you didn't take the turn on Seiler Road because that stop's no longer used, that could actually save you 5 miles twice a day, right? So some stops eliminated mean nothing, some stops eliminated mean a lot. And so that's the push and pull of what we're kind of going through right now. When Bob was talking about the tiers, so tiers is high school on one group of buses, middle school on one group of buses, elementary on one group of buses. We know from a numbers perspective, middle school and high school kids equals the elementary tier. But do they all live in the right places where they could all ride the same buses, and would it all work out? And that's kind of what we're working through right now. The other thing you mentioned is vetting routes. So even once we establish some potential new routes, those still have to be vetted by someone who understands the different nuances of taking a bus down as cul-de-sac to turn around, for example. So you might go down a cul-de-sac, and if it's not been updated by the fire department as a fire department turnaround, a bus can't turn around. So there are certain streets buses can go down and can't go down. GIS systems won't tell you that, They'll just take the bus down there. And so you have to literally go through and vet each one of those routes once they're done. So once we have our new data set, we're going to be working with First Student to look at brand new routes. But this year, we're looking at those stops, and can any of those be eliminated without any savings?
Well, it just seems like we're early enough in the year, though, that some of that savings could already be hitting us, right? I mean,
It could.
We
It could.
if we started instituting that. But part of that is, if I'm understanding correctly, kind of what you're saying as far as, what we would need to help facilitate a two-tier system is that service level agreements would have to sort of be addressed.
They would.
So, but those are all things that we could be starting now, right?
As long as we know that we actually can go to a two-tier system.
Well, I mean, I guess
yeah.
what we're talking about, I mean, if we're talking about changing of routes because somebody's not using it, I mean, my house is a great example. I mean, we're on a stop. We don't use it. I mean, if we were the only house on that road, you could bypass our
Correct.
road altogether.
Correct.
So, I mean, those types of decisions would impact the district savings now.
Correct. It would be time. It would be
I mean,
time
regardless
savings.
of whether it's a 3-tier or 2-tier.
Correct.
right?
It'd be time savings on a route.
Right.
Yep.
So, but that's savings because
Correct.
what we get reimbursed from the state and what we actually get charged from the vendor is the miles.
Correct.
Not necessarily the stops.
Correct.
So if we have the ability to impact the miles now.
Correct.
Regardless of whether
Yes.
it's 2-tier or 3-tier, we should probably
we will
towards that, right?
We will have some, yes, we will have some level of savings.
Okay, so are we gonna start making, working with them to potentially deal with some of those service level agreements
In terms of
now?
the contract, and Dave, I don't have the contract in front of me. Do you know, contract-wise with First Student, what that looks like? I know for our
There's
extracurriculars, there's a per
yeah,
hour.
It's based on the hours driven.
Okay.
It's 6 hours. And then if there's a modification of the fleet by a certain percent, then it can be, they can open it up, I guess, for lack of a better term. So if you reduce 10% of the buses,
Yeah.
the fees could be, but I think for what we're talking about, it's probably more of the buses that run, and if you eliminate stops, you're probably not, it's getting to, you might have the ability to not have bus routes that drivers are driving that are 6 hours or more longer, because once you get past 6 hours, there's an extra charge if it's over 6 hours, so you could rein back on some of that if the routes are not longer than 6, because the standard's 6, but then after that.
Yeah, I mean, and when they were here a year and a half ago, they were talking through some of the data without actually, it would be great if some of that could be provided to the board. 'Cause
Sure.
I'm sure it's out there, but, I mean, if I remember correctly, that was something like 1 out of every 5 stops.
Correct.
Was
It was
available.
20+%.
I mean, and that's huge. That's
Yeah.
that's not even going to a 2-tier system. That's
Correct.
just the way we do it now.
Correct.
I mean, and based on the fact that if we're running negative on transportation, I mean, that's turning it to a positive.
The perfect example is the number of high school kids that have a stop allotted to them, but what's the percentage of kids that drive that don't use a bus?
Well, only 22% of the high school rides buses.
Yeah, so see.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a-
and those are
that's a
savings we could
significant
get
savings right there,
now,
yeah.
Still set up a system that allows for parents to be able to call and say, hey, listen, we've got an issue going on next week, can we be added back onto the route,
So one of the things we committed when we put that in place in registration is that every student would still be routed.
Yeah.
But if a bus stop was not used last year and nobody has signed up this year, we are going to look at eliminating that bus stop. So we want to make sure, because we didn't prep our community with, hey, you might not have a bus. So we want to make sure that we can validate that when school starts and not necessarily have people standing out at the stop without a bus coming.
So the survey is going out, so we're
It's in
actually.
registration.
The
Yes.
survey's going out in registration. We are actively engaging the parents that are different than what we had anticipated.
We are actively using that data to go back to First Student and say, was this stop used last year? Is there a stop for the student? This parent said they're not riding the bus. Let's see if we can eliminate that, and then let's validate that.
But nothing's coming out in that's weird enough that we need to actually make sure that it's being filled out correctly.
Not at this point in time. It's matching last year's numbers pretty closely.
Is there consideration, is it just asking the one question?
What it asks is how often will your child be riding the bus?
Oh, because
And
I know
it's-
a lot of parents drive their kids to school, but they ride
Yep.
the bus home.
And it's AM and PM, some
Okay,
daily,
good.
sometimes
Good.
rarely, seasonally, and never, I think, are the choices.
Okay.
So it gives some places where you could say, yeah, my child's gonna ride the bus sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but anyway, back to the two-tier system. So getting that right really needs to happen before the 7-period day can
Correct,
happen.
because the 7-period day would
unfortunately.
make the high school day longer,
Right.
which then impacts everybody else.
But there's a win-win there, because then that actually, even if we don't, I mean, it still allows us to have a later start time for the high school.
Yes.
And potentially get a 7-period day out as well.
Correct.
Okay.
If by second quarter, said parent who has been driving their child first semester has a family issue or concern and they need to utilize bus services, we will provide that.
Absolutely.
correct?
And we would do that even in the new system where if we make people sign up for a bus, there would just be a potential 5-6 day turnaround.
Got it,
So it
okay.
just depends on where the bus, again, that Meridian Road example, we can do it the next day.
Okay.
The Siler Road example, it's gonna take a few days to reroute.
We have to have that flexibility anyway for new students.
We do,
to come in,
correct.
So that makes sense.
Yes, correct.
to have that.
How close are we on analyzing this data to get to where we can make a decision? So, like the young lady that spoke tonight, the struggle is real, and we've been doing this for a year and a half, and sooner or later, that data is gonna be obsolete. And so how close are we in order to formulate this plan, are we?
I don't have the answer for you today. I know that Bill spent a day with Randy in July to go through some of the new data and talk about a process, but that's all I've got today.
Okay.
But I'll have something this fall.
Right, because after the bus, then comes contracts and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
and
We have
that's
already
another
met with
mess.
First Student, and we did get a cost of what we think a cost savings would be for a two-tier. They estimated that for us, so we've already had some preliminary conversations.
Cool, thank you.
But again, I do think there's opportunities for us to try to get some savings this year as well.
Absolutely.
If we can push that. Okay. Any other questions about transportation? Probably flog that bus. So, okay, 6.3, health, life, safety amendment. I will say upfront, this was originally on as an action item. Didn't mean for it to be an action item, meant for it to be a discussion item. That is completely on yours truly. So that's why we did the amended budget, to move it to discussion, because we are trying to, on most items where we can have a discussion ahead of time, have that. But this is a good one that I think, do we want to, Dave, do you want to talk about it?
Sure. So the life safety amendment that was being proposed for submission to the ROE was for the asbestos abatement projects that are occurring at Lincoln through the summer of 2026. So as part of that process, this amendment is an update from the 10-year health life safety survey that was done in 2017. So every 10 years you do a health life safety survey to identify areas that qualify for health life safety funding through an approval through the architect, certified architect submitting a 10-year survey, that being submitted to the ROE and state for approval. So this original amendment is already part of the 10-year health life safety survey that was done in 2017. So there are numerous construction projects that we've done through the years where it's bond-funded construction, but there is a part of those projects that could involve asbestos abatement that are already in 10-year health life safety surveys that you can utilize that funding for if you want, to try and just place costs where they were already contemplated to be paid from. So like, this is kind of an amendment to adjust, because when those surveys were done, obviously the cost estimates were different, and this would be one where it would be the potential of trying to, of having it submitted for approval. Still has to go through the approval process, to potentially move that cost if approved, to the Health Life Safety Fund as it was submitted with the 10-year survey from 2017. So the impact, you have a Health Life Safety Fund that sits at 2.3 million today. We'll add 1.1 to 1.2 million this year through the tax levy. There's a 5-cent levy assigned to the Health Life Safety Fund. And then with some interest income. And then the purpose of the fund, again, can only be used for those expenditures or projects that are identified through the 10-year Health Life Safety Survey as issues that qualify for Health Life Safety funding, that then are submitted to the ROE, then submitted to the state to be approved, to allow for that, I guess, expenditure to be paid from the Health Life Safety Fund.
Right.
So this is, the thought was merely a submission of a request to have it approved, and then potentially allowing the district, if they would like, to take that expense from the Health Life Safety Fund as it was contemplated from the survey from 2017, as opposed to paying it from a bond fund, to help maybe with a different priority or help achieve a priority project on the bonds that, you know, may or might not happen just based on how those expenditures kind of flow. So again, it's something we've done in the past, when those parts of projects that are identified in a survey, they can be addressed and paid for through that funding mechanism.
So we're talking about funds that are already available in
Health Life Safety.
Health Life Safety. We're not talking about moving it to a loan. We're just talking about, funds that, because it's Lincoln, it would be potentially on the list to
Right.
be taken care of with the
Just as-
bond, but moving it to Health Life Safety
Right.
actually frees up those funds
Just
for
as
some
the
other
same
priorities.
conversation you could have, which we haven't yet, obviously with Hamel, but it's the same conversation you can have with Hamel because the pods have asbestos. So,
That was my.
if you wanted to do the same thing, it's something you could consider.
Because it's on the list. But if
because
it,
it's on the
if it
list.
hadn't been on the list, then we wouldn't even be able to consider unless it's a particular type.
You can always amend the survey, but these things have been on the survey. Abatement's been on the survey, so. But if there is an expenditure that happens that was not on a list contemplated 8 years ago, like this one, not this one, but a different one, you could still file an amendment to request that it be paid from Health Life Safety. It would just go through the process where it'd have to be certified by your architect, then submitted to the ROE, then submitted to the state. So it doesn't necessarily, the survey doesn't lock you in to just the things that are on that list. If something happens in the interim where all of a sudden the boiler at Liberty goes kaput and it's $1.5 million or something, and you're trying to find a way to pay for it, you can still file an amendment. But these are already on the list, just in a different cost estimate because that was done in 2017. So,
What's the downside to us doing this?
downside, it just takes funding from the Health Life. It's not really a downs. There are projects, Health Life Safety projects that we're probably contemplating for next summer that would be used with that funding source, but it's nowhere near if we took this out, we'd be at probably $2.5 million at the end of this coming year. So there are some, which we will talk about, there are some tuck pointing projects that are very important at 3 of our schools off the top of my head that we probably need to plan and address this next summer. But I think there's enough funding in that fund to cover those kind of projects next summer. So, and then your cycle will happen again, and then next year you'll get another 1.2 dropped into the fund for the next fiscal year too. So
So we've talked about asbestos, and that sounds like a natural health, life, safety thing. What are the other types of, I guess,
I
items?
mean, well, we did roofs, roofs, boiler systems, HVAC systems. Parking lots on some you can stretch, but it's things like, the electric, HVAC boilers, any
Building
major infrastructure that would impact the building that would cause it, to not be operational, or for student occupancy or
Like an
something
AC
like
or
that.
something, or
Right.
something of that nature?
Yeah.
So, question for you. Currently, where you spoke on asbestos, we've already got funds allocated for those, correct?
They are in the construction fund right now, yes.
Okay. And so my apprehension about doing anything with HLS funding is once you pull it out of there and you start using it for that, I don't want to get in the habit of taking that funding and then saying, oh, okay, this is freed up, let's do it on something else. We asked for funding to complete these projects. Use the funding necessary to complete them. If there is overages that are needed to be used, then use HLS. I just don't like the idea of just saying, hey, we got a pot over here, let's pull from it.
Are you done, Scott? Good. I don't want to cut you off, bud. I guess.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
good.
So I agree. Again, I go back to the priorities promised to the district, and here we have Hamel sitting over here, and we even published tiles with the asbestos so we could sell it to the public. And I don't understand if this money's sitting here and Hamel's identified on the list or on the survey, and we have a board member during this, a former board member, I should say, that identifies this need between 2018 and 2019, why this hasn't been done? Why do we have kids in this school when we have the funds to remove this asbestos? Even if we don't go into that construction project, why do we keep pushing money all into one solid project when there's others that could benefit from it? That's where I'm having my largest issue from a taxpayer, from a board member, and a parent. I just don't get it.
I'm not sure I understand what you're
So
saying.
you have health, life, safety funds, right?
Right.
That can be used for asbestos abatement.
Right.
We have Hamel Elementary that's on the list on the survey.
Right.
Or if it's not, we can amend it. In 2018 and 19, the district identified Hamel as in need of asbestos abatement. When we went through in 2023, the board went to sell this $100 million bond. It's just still on our website of a ceiling tile over at Hamel that has asbestos in it, and it needs abatement. So we have all this money available for use, and we're holding on to it, and we have money allocated already for asbestos abatement at Lincoln. It's already included in the construction bond, yet we're saying, Hamel, you can sit in your asbestos. You can just sit there. And we're not using it to protect our kids. Instead, now we're going over to Lincoln and saying, you know what, I know we budgeted for this, but we're gonna go ahead and pull it out instead of spending it elsewhere and pay for a project that's already funded.
I think I heard Dave say that when Hamel's abatement comes up, then we could basically do the same thing since it's on the list.
But it's been up since 2023, since.
Yeah, but there's a lot of projects, Matt, that are on that list that haven't been done because that life safety fund balance has only it's not been that high. And if you look at that list from the 10-year survey, there's I'll say it, maybe $75 to $100 million of projects that could be done. But then those require bond issues. You're only going to be able to do one thing a year, maybe.
But it's still a step to complete what was promised to the public.
So priorities.
Well, I understand, and I think what I'm saying is that when Hamel's decided on the asbestos abatement can be paid from the Health and Safety Fund to fix that issue as well.
And then we go into, and I think you answered my question, you said another 1.1 to 1.2 million dollars is going to be put in it this year. Right now it's at 2.2, 2.3.
Yeah. Mhm.
And the recommended amount is 800,000 to take out, 800,000 plus.
That's what the estimate is, man. So that's what the amendment would be filed for. That doesn't mean that the cost will be 810. It depends on what. So there's only part of that's been really contemplated right now because there's a whole lot of abatement that has to occur next summer at Lincoln still. So this number could be lower than that. That's the cost estimate from the architect to put it into a potential bucket, I'll say, of an amendment, but that doesn't mean that it will be that amount.
So
it could be less than that.
If this goes in, we lose 800,000. And an example that was provided to the public during this presentation was somebody goes to replace carpet, pulls it up, and all of a sudden finds this asbestos, and now we have to immediately do an asbestos abatement. Or a ceiling tile falls off of Hamel, and all of a sudden we're in an asbestos abatement. And there are ways to encase it, I understand that. But we've already depleted money out of an account for a budget that we've already budgeted to pay for. Unless I'm misunderstanding.
No, I understand what you're saying. It is a potential. I'm not saying that you have to do it.
I'm trying to understand, that's all.
I mean, it's just a mechanism that if you felt that you were potentially, since the survey was done and the expenses there, that if you felt like you could do something that would allow you to do a playground, this is just my feeling, a playground or something else that wouldn't get done because you left that there, you could still do that. But it doesn't matter to me, it's just an alternative.
Okay. Can this 800,000?
Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but we also have Nelson School that needs to have abatement done, correct? It was identified as there were three schools, Lincoln, Nelson, and Hamel.
Yeah, that was the abatement that's already been done for the secured entry, and that amount was just paid for. It can be paid out of either place, but that was just either an already approved amendment or was out of O&M because the amount was so small.
Okay, so Nelson's complete. Now we're just looking at finishing the work at Lincoln and doing this work at Hamel, correct?
Right.
So
then I don't even know why it's a discussion of why we're talking about moving stuff around. Let's just get the money allocated already for these projects and move resources to them and get them done. As Matt said, as I said before, it's to have kids go into schools where we've identified asbestos. My father was afflicted by asbestos, and it is a horrible thing for somebody to have to go through, and just as bad for family members to see people afflicted. So to walk through there saying we have asbestos, and we're still just kind of, hey, let's do this and move that. Let's just get it done.
Dave, would you help remind me? So asbestos in a school right now, typically encapsulated, and even if it's friable, which is what we're talking about, is it at risk for anybody in the school?
No.
It's only at risk when we're messing with
exposed.
it. Right, right. Yeah.
That's why you don't
Hold
want
on
to do it
now.
unless you do construction.
But let's understand something. That's only if it's been disturbed.
Right.
You know, but
correct.
The fact that you have it identified doesn't mean that it's mitigated.
Correct.
So that's what we're saying. If we have $800,000 allocated for it, let's get it done. There's no sense in playing around and trying to move money around and, hey, if we do this, let's just get it done with the $800,000 that we already have allocated.
So this 10-year survey, when was that done, or when is it
2017.
done? 2017.
We'll do another one here in another year and a half or so.
Okay, and I think during our walkthrough when Matt and I went with you guys to Lincoln's new build-out, I think we wanted to consider some new mechanics for, how it was HVAC, or it was, I don't know, we just wanted to you guys wanted to do some upgrades and possibly roll that out to other schools. I don't know if that was gonna be something set in stone, but, just whether it was HVAC or something electrical, that was coming into mind. Would that be as well as HLS, a part
It could
of the
be.
fund?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My concern is just depleting it, and then we run into, coming up in a couple years, and we come up to the survey, and we've got things that we need to replace, and then we just kind of almost deplete it in half, and we don't have the reserve. That's my concern there.
Well, you'll never get to, I mean, when we do the survey and, so it's a 10-year survey, but it's probably gonna show that you have it could be $75, $100 million of stuff that has to be done in 10 years. You will have to do a bond issue at some point to address those, because the life safety fund is not gonna pay for that work.
And when you say bond, you mean health, life, safety bonds?
Mhm.
Okay.
Are there specific projects that are coming up that are on health, life, safety?
There are tuck pointing projects I know for 100% that have to be done at 3 schools, that I think we need to do next summer.
Is there one HVAC or boiler unit that's kind of nearing end of life?
There's a couple.
Yeah.
So we could do that too.
But many of the HVAC units and boilers have been replaced. I don't say we have new roofs on every building, but we're pretty
There
close.
will be a probably new roof on almost every building.
Yeah.
Between
Yes, we've done a lot of
those-
infrastructure things.
Yeah, the life safety bond issue we did the last time, and the insurance claim this past time, I think almost every roof's been replaced, or gonna be replaced.
Any other questions about health and life safety? Okay. We'll move on to action items. 7.1, approval of action item 7.1. Dr. Shelton.
Absolutely. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the concussion oversight team as listed in the agenda.
Okay. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Why don't we talk a little bit about the concussion oversight team? and what policy?
Sure. So board policy indicates that we have a concussion oversight team, so the members are listed in the agenda. That's led by Amy Biscolo, and that team reviews concussion protocols, data on an annual basis.
Okay. They don't necessarily adjudicate when somebody goes back to school, but they set up the parameters with which that is being done. But there's a whole program that's governed by
IHSA.
IHSA, yeah.
And we report that data to IHSA as well.
Okay, cool. So this sort of more formalizes and makes sure that the board is aware of who those members of the team are. So, and these are the board's recommendations. And if we're gonna, I guess, do this on an annual basis, or if somebody leaves the board, then we just appoint somebody new.
Correct.
So.
Would so say that the school nurse leaves, would another school nurse be appointed? That's why I like the positions on there too, not just names.
Correct. So I can give you the other individuals. Riley Murray is a contracted employee with Athletico, so she also assists with our athletic training department. Dustin Madison, Eric Preto are head coaches. So if one of them left, we probably would just let it roll into the next year and then replace coach. And then Dr. Omatola is our physician that's on field for many of our events.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Aye. I assume that was an aye, Scott. Okay, and the ayes have it. Okay. Action item 7.2, Approval of 7.2, Dave Courtney.
All right, thank you. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the list of financial institutions as Edwardsville Community Unit School District 7 depositories for the 25-26 school year.
Move to approve.
Second. Okay, any discussion? Okay. Those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, say nay. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Okay. Approval of action item 7.3, Dave Courtney.
I think it's recommended the Board of Education approve the bid for printer fax cartridges for the 25-26 school year in the amount of $81,330.15.
May I have a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Have a second? Okay. Any discussion? Okay. Carrie, please call the roll.
Bauer,
Yes.
Sanderson,
Yes.
Ahart,
Yes.
Bryant,
Yes.
Beatty.
Yes. Okay. And approval of action item 7.5, Dr. Shelton.
7.4 track, yes?
Oh, yeah.
Making
4.
sure.
The script says 7.5.
Sorry about that. So we are bringing a recommendation for a change order with the track. So the original track project, first of all, includes design by our own civil engineer and not by the contractor. So as they are going through design with Oates, that's our civil engineer, so there's a little bit of checks and balances. Oates has recommended 2 things. They've recommended the addition of a 4-foot perimeter concrete walk on the exterior of the track, and then I learned that there's also another one on a storm outlet. They want to increase the drainage of the storm outlet coming off the field just so water gets off the field faster. We did not include design or construction contingencies in this project. Didn't know there needed to be, but at the same time, we have for all the other projects, so that's probably something that we should have done. There's also a request from our facilities department to add conduit. So 3 sets of conduit, a 4-inch conduit and 2.5 inches of conduit for timing equipment, and later electrical work that would need to happen, and that's $40,000. The storm outlet is $17,750, and the sidewalk that's being recommended is $63,000. This does not include anything on the softball field. When we get to the softball field, I would imagine we will encounter at least a couple small things. The biggest one will be the potential for soil stabilization that we don't know. We have a maximum amount of what that would be, but we don't know actually until we test, till they do the grading and we test the soil.
Okay. Any discussion? Any questions?
Yeah. So, I apologize for hitting you up with the request for the bids. I was looking on the internet, and I was looking at the conduit, because I ran it when I did my house, and I thought 40,000 seemed a little high. So I was looking to kind of see what they're piecing together.
I agree, and I asked for the itemized bid, and I just haven't gotten it yet.
Okay.
From the vendor they're using.
I mean, the going price was like $43 for 10 feet, and that's a lot. A lot of feet there.
It is a lot of feet. Yes.
So I was curious on, and I wish we had a better explanation to see how this is going to be utilized, because I agree, it's going to cost maybe a little bit more to bore under it, and it's always best to prepare. But then I look at some of the projects that are being done, and it's almost like there wasn't enough talk on this. And I've built 2 houses in my life, and I see some of the problems that come up, and I find it difficult that we've done projects like this before. We've done projects like tracks before. We've done projects like the turf before, and I don't know how this was not thought of during this whole bid process. Why did the bid come in so low and didn't include things like the spoils remained on site? So far we've paid, I don't even have the dollar amounts in front of me. I think it's
18 for spoils.
18 for the soils, and then how much for the soil?
15.
15. So we're 18 plus 15 already over what was approved by the board. And then we're going into now the board approved stuff. And we want another 103,000 if my Common Core is correct.
Along those lines.
All right, so and then we're looking at Now we have the track, or not the track, but the softball field on top of that. And we go back to that whole mission, vision, and values thing on integrity. We keep telling the public, this is all we're gonna do, but here we are, already over 100,000 over budget. And I'm kind of curious on who was on the team, why this wasn't included beforehand, and what the actual, why this is all becoming an issue now, is my largest question.
So I can speak to each one of the items. Their design changes. So the spoils, I'll speak to the ones that we're talking about tonight. The design changes for the concrete, we originally planned to do a different barrier on the outside. The recommendation from the civil engineer to maintain the integrity of the track is to put in a concrete sidewalk. They did provide that as an alternate cost on the proposal, but we felt like we could probably do something different. Our civil engineers disagreeing with us. So they're coming back saying, this is the best thing you could do, not anything we have to do. Same thing that I will say with the storm outlet. That's been a design change from the civil engineer who's involved on our side. So the civil engineer works for us. Typically, and Dave, I've not done a track or field, so you jump in because I know you have. Typically, if we were going to hire Byrne & Jones to do it, we would let their engineers take care of it, and they would come to us with the change orders that they want. So I'm comfortable with the change orders because I know that Oates is working for us, and they're not working for Byrne & Jones. So it's a nice check and balance on our side. But they're both true design changes, not things that we plan for in advance.
Okay. I guess my only question, and I guess I don't necessarily know where to go with this one, is more on the budget side, just because we don't have a budget yet. I guess my question is, from a capacity and the preliminary numbers that you're seeing so far, Dave, is there capacity for this type of addition? Because to Matt's point, after a while,
Yes.
it adds up.
Yes.
And so I just want to make
agree.
sure that,
Yeah.
do we have other projects we're going to have to put on hold, or?
Not to my knowledge right now, Bob. There's a large enough balance that would be placed in there. And the fund balance is growing, probably is a little larger from last year than we projected. So I think the budget can still absorb this and still maintain where we kind of projected where we would end. This amount, when you start getting higher amounts right now, then I would probably be more hesitant, but.
Yeah, because I echo Matt's concern because if I remember correctly, a couple of these things have to be decided like tonight. They can't be tabled, because if we're going to do it, it has to start tomorrow.
Yeah, and Matt, I would love to say we could do something in advance for softball, but I think a couple of these we didn't, like the storm outlet, we didn't really know until we did the grading and they got in and looked at the storm drain that's down there. So I think some of it is you actually just don't know until you get into the work. It does happen. I think anything that we can do in advance on the design side, I'd like to take care of so that we can have an opportunity to discuss it before we get to that point of making a decision.
The conduit, I think the potential option, if we don't do it tonight, I know how they operate the track and where they run the track from, because they start and finish on the opposite side.
Correct.
From the field house. So there has to be some connection to the equipment that's over there. So therefore you can then run the scoreboard, you can have information in the thing. So from a logistics perspective, there needs to be that. If we don't approve it, then we're talking about some alternative solution that potentially is more expensive to be able to either go around to get, or go under, or go under, which could be more expensive.
You're talking about wants and not needs. I've run track for multiple years. We've never had any of that stuff before. This retaining wall, we haven't had it at the current one. We haven't had it at any of the other schools. They don't have it out at SIU. As Matt alluded to it, this is something that you need to fully scope out on the front end so we don't have these cost overruns on the back end. I don't agree with it at all, you know, and I'm a person that absolutely loves track and field. Excuse me, my family members have had records up there. I think I still have one up there. So track and field is a passion of mine, but being responsible with the community's funds is even more of a passion for me. And I just don't see the return on investment for the community when we have questions on how we're going to get funding in the future. So for me, I don't see it.
Okay. You bring up a good point though, Scott, and I guess the standpoint of, let's say, for instance, the perimeter concrete walk. I mean, if the engineer is saying we need it, did he explain, you know, why and why it's important?
Sure. So there's been damage on lane 8 of the track right now because there's grass. And so if we leave grass there, it's just by nature, it's going to get hit by weed eating, by mowing, by things like that. So that causes early damage to the track. We could put rock in along the edge. That's a lot cheaper than concrete. But then you've got the possibility of rock spilling over into the track, which could be a hazard. So then you've got to check that. So those kind of the three options.
Okay.
And currently, we don't have that in place, correct?
We have grass
At
currently.
any of the schools. At any of the schools, right?
I won't speak
So
to the other.
if we
I
currently
think
don't have it in place, it's a want and not a need.
But the track deteriorated because the water right there. So so there needs to be a way to change that so the new track doesn't do the same thing. Is that correct?
You're talking about in one place. You're talking about in one place. You know, what I'm talking about is this is something that is a want and not a need. You know, it's our job to scrutinize each project and make sure that every dollar is being allocated properly. This is not something that we need to be doing at a time right now when we have other things that need to be taken care of. When you say $103,000, you know, that's not a drop in the bucket. That's a lot of money.
Any other?
Can that be a consideration for something down the road?
I want to.
Looking at wear and tear on the 8th lane, you know, by the grassy knoll, and it starts deteriorating, can we then possibly bring in that retaining?
Not easily, and it's not a retaining wall, it's just a concrete perimeter. So that's
Yeah,
all.
it's a
That's
wall,
all it is.
meaning
It's a sidewalk.
sidewalk.
Yeah, it's just a sidewalk. That's what it is.
And then is it standard to have the timing equipment on all tracks? And so is that going to keep us from competing or, you know, having tournaments?
We will have to figure out how to get timing equipment over there,
Okay.
one way or the other. I mean, that's where it is.
Is there a conduit now? I mean, is there some?
I don't think that. And Dave, do you know?
I don't think so. It's not right. We'll go around it.
Yeah.
So we're making it right now. It's working right now?
It's a
It's multiple conduits that go around the track, power like the school boards, stuff like that.
Okay.
Stuff we put in, in those areas.
Lord.
So it's possible to do another way?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I think so there's, and I want to point out this third item that's not listed on the agenda, the storm outlet that was brought to my attention today. So that's another 17,000. So that's just something else that needs to be considered. The concrete, if it didn't happen, we have another solution with either rock or grass. And that's not something we have to do, but we do have to decide that.
So that brings us up to $150,000 over budget.
I have 123.5.
The 103 today, the 15 you already spent, the 18 you
Oh,
already
yeah,
spent.
correct. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just counting the things we're looking at today.
And then the 17, $150,000 over budget. The perception is like we sold them a Cadillac, you know, and we gave them a Chevy and then expect them to pay for the Cadillac down the road. And I can't get behind that. So.
I guess the question is, I mean, if the conduit we've got, we're making do now. I mean, and the concrete, there are alternatives. I mean, I guess I'm trying to understand how critical this is to the longevity of things, I guess is what I mean, are we buying ourselves 10 more years? Are we buying ourselves 1 year? Or is this just I'm just trying to understand, how critical this is to the process. I mean, I think the soil stabilization, I get that.
That's critical.
I understand that that's critical, but that's kind of been addressed. So, yeah, I'm not sure. Okay. Y'all want to vote? Or I guess have a motion?
Well, I just think we need to determine, I'm a little concerned that there wasn't a budget. When in my line of work, we have a CapEx, and it gets approved. And from what we understood, adding both track and field, that was going to be the dollar amount. Not everybody agreed with it, but we pushed through it, the board approved it, and here we are. Going forward, we have to establish these parameters, and we have to have definitive outlines of budgets, whether you call it a budget, CapEx, approvals. Then we can look at change orders, and we can be a little bit more comfortable with surprises that wasn't in the original contract. We could determine different scope changes. Do we take a little bit off, shave off a little bit from the softball field in the next couple of years to offset some of this cost here? If these are truly needs, not just, well, oh, that sounds good, we should do that one too, and continue to add to that Chevy analogy. But it's a hard sell when as board members, we have to go back to the community of individuals that are paying for this and have to justify, oh, well, I'm sorry, there wasn't even approved CapEx to begin with. So now we're just adding money on money. That doesn't make me happy either. Are we determining this conduit, the little pad of concrete, and it was another one. Are we bidding them out, or are we just taking the one?
It would be part of the Burn and Jones work, so they would do that.
Okay.
They take care of the subs with that. Because we didn't do this as a CM process, we did this as a general contractor. And again, I'll point out that we put in zero contingency dollars in this project at the beginning. So there's no play, if things like this come up, there's nothing there to absorb that like we have on all of our other projects. So it's a change in how we've operated from a construction standpoint since I've been here. And my understanding is that's pretty typical, Dave, with projects like this, is that there's not really contingency built in. We deal with change orders as they come up.
For direct bids.
Yeah.
More than
yeah.
GM.
I'm sorry, how old is this track?
It's the original base, right?
Yeah, it was resurfaced maybe 10 years ago or something.
So it was resurfaced 10 years ago, but it's how old?
30?
Probably 25, 30 years.
And the crackling and the deterioration along the outer started roughly
I don't have an answer to that.
recently, 2 years ago, 10 years ago.
I don't know.
No, it's had some issues before then.
Yeah.
So the track base should last 30 to 40 years, is my understanding. Surfacing lasts 8 to 10. So when you resurface, it's a fraction of the cost, but the base is what you want to make sure is good. And we're replacing everything.
And the board originally approved and budgeted for the tracks resurfacing and replacement, correct?
Correct.
But then right before the old board went out, literally the last meeting you had, it was pushed through to then do turf, track, and a softball field.
Correct, yes.
Outside of what was originally budgeted.
Well, yes, in the sense that it was budgeted to do the track originally, but there was no, we added the infield, the turf, and the softball field to what was originally discussed when the budget was being developed.
And then this is over a 3-year period.
Correct. This is over a 3-year period, right? Yeah. The way this is going to be built.
So if conduit's working, if the concrete walk isn't imperative, we've saved ourselves $100,000. But we go with the, what'd you call it, storm wall?
The storm outlet?
Outlet, sorry.
Does that have to be, but that's not on here now.
It's not on here now.
Not on here now.
Because that falls under the 35,000. But once we have the budget approved, then it can be made without board approval.
Is there money in the budget currently, or in the bid, or whatever it is, for the gravel or whatever, or is that gonna be, if we do something else besides concrete? around
I am
the
sure there's
edge?
a placeholder, I don't know what it is.
Okay.
But I'm sure there's a placeholder to put something there,
So there is gravel in there
or
already?
grass, one of the two.
I would
Grass
not
is
do
gonna get us to
gravel.
where we're at now, right?
I'd be more concerned about gravel from
Absolutely.
Oh,
a
yeah,
track, from
yeah,
a,
kids running with the gravel, that sounds like a problem.
Okay.
So can we table this, or can we amend it now to reflect
If
a
we
couple
table
items
it,
off?
the conduit's off the table, right?
Mhm.
So I move to vote.
You want to vote? You want to vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
Vote.
Oh,
Can we
May I have a
separate them
motion?
into two different things, though?
can we what?
You have two votes, like one for conduit and one
Right,
for the
that's
concrete
what
wall?
yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, to
And-
that.
and
Or
again,
would we
I'm-
have to vote?
Or we could just have a motion.
No,
if we're-
and, sorry, go ahead.
So if you're only wanting to do one of them, then let's just call a motion for one of those items, right? We can do that?
you could.
And then,
Only if I don't get a second. I've already made a motion
To do what?
to vote.
Oh, for Holt.
Yeah.
you just want to vote.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to make a motion to vote on all of it?
Right, as it sits right here, right in front of us, as presented to us.
I don't want
Okay.
to vote
I
for
move
both
to
of
vote.
them. I don't want
Okay.
to.
Can you retract your motion?
Nope.
A board member can't, okay. I know everybody.
Now I can
is
go
voting.
through and I not get a second. And then somebody can make another motion to amend.
Oh, thank you. Perfect, okay.
Okay.
Do that as Robert's rules.
Yes, we have a Robert's Rules.
Former
person.
unit
Yeah,
president.
yeah. Okay. Would someone like to amend his motion?
You can't, you could wait for
We have
a
a
second.
motion
We
in the
gotta wait for a
first.
second, sorry.
How long do we
Okay,
have to wait?
okay.
What are we waiting?
A second.
Is there, did I hear a second? What?
What were you motioning, Matt?
So it goes, my motion, then it goes a second.
Right.
And then it goes to discussion. Somebody can make a motion to
Oh,
amend.
second motion
so you wanna go ahead
to
and
keep this
second it.
rolling.
Okay.
Mhm, Yes.
So to vote for both of them?
No, just for discussion, to
Oh.
open this up and,
Yeah.
correct, yes.
So we need a second.
That was me, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So now we have a second, so let's discuss again.
So now this should
So-
open up to the discussion. You
That's right.
guys want to amend the motion? Somebody needs to provide specific language on what you want to amend the motion to.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Is there a dollar amount that you're comfortable with?
No. 0.
Is there a dollar amount that you're comfortable with?
For me, it's what's needed for this track.
So what I
Okay,
would
we're-
like to
we're
do, what I would
past.
recommend, is I go back to Josh, our athletic director, our firm that we're working with, and say, I need help on prioritizing this, because I don't want to be the person that says the conduit's more important than the storm outlet. I don't want to be the person that says the concrete sidewalk is more important than this. I'd like a dollar amount to go back to them and let them determine what that priority is, and then whatever doesn't get done, what doesn't get done.
So then it sounds like we could go ahead and vote, and then you come back with another proposal at the next meeting.
If it's not sufficient, or if it's whatever.
Okay, so then let's go ahead and, I suggest, if y'all are fine with that, let's go ahead and vote.
Right, so the only thing missing is help me out, which one's missing?
The
storm
drainage.
Yeah.
$17,000 drain. And keep
that
in
would
mind,
allow-
the $40,000 and the $63,000 that we have presented to us, we do not have evidence or the actual bid in front of us. So at $43.95 for a 10-foot section of Schedule 40 EMT conduit, times that or divide that by 40, I can't do that in my head, but that's how much conduit they're saying that they need. And again, that's why, again, I apologize for hitting you late. It just dawned on me that's a lot of conduit, $40,000.
And Matt, I'd already asked for that information, so.
Okay. So let's.
So can I propose a dollar amount?
To me, it's not the dollar amount, it's
No.
about what we have to do.
Right now, we're in a motion.
I think we're in motion, so it sounds like we just need to vote, and if we vote it down, it can still come back next meeting with, with what it needs to be at. Is that what is that what you're thinking?
Correct, and then there will still be a possibility of a grouping, which
Yeah.
might lead us to amending to just,
But the conduit won't be part of that, because the conduit would have to be started tomorrow.
I'm not sure the storm outlet will be either. That's either here or there.
Okay.
It is what it is.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and vote? Okay. Carrie, please call the roll.
Brian,
No.
Bauer,
no.
Ahart,
No.
Sanderson,
No.
Patey.
No. Okay. Action does not pass. Okay. Approval of action item 7.5, Dr. Shelton.
Thank you. To recommend that the Board of Education approve personnel matters related to the resignations and retirements of employees as discussed earlier in executive session.
Okay. May I have a motion? May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Carrie, please call the roll.
Sanderson,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Ahart,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Patey.
Yes. Approval of actions item 7.6, Dr. Shelton.
Thank you. To recommend that the Board of Education approve personnel matters related to the appointment, employment, compensation, or transfer of employees pending required certifications and professional educator license, completion of paperwork, and all background fingerprint checks completed and cleared as discussed earlier in executive session.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
Yes.
Okay. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Carrie, please call the roll.
Bauer,
Yes.
Ahart,
Yes.
Sanderson,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Patey.
Yes. Okay, 8.1. Is there any other business or announcements that the board would like to make?
I do have one question, and I apologize. The Lincoln project, in front where the foot traffic used to go, there used to be a sidewalk that went down. And now the sidewalk that they poured there, the entry pad where they poured that crosses West Street there, I'm trying to explain myself, and I don't think I'm doing real well, but.
That's where the crosswalk is.
Yeah, the new crosswalk that doesn't line up to the new pad that's sitting out there at the stoplight where we pay the crossing guard to cross the kids there. There used to be a sidewalk that went up for the kids to come off the hill. And I didn't know, I know there's a lot of construction going on and some grading and stuff, but I didn't know if we were gonna reroute traffic, student foot traffic, and I didn't know.
If I'm remembering correctly, and I know what you're talking about, but don't quote me on this, I think there's a new switchback that gets put in there that goes up to Lincoln when the new grading happens on the other side.
Okay, is that grading going up or down, do you know?
The teacher lot
Yeah,
going up.
okay. Gotcha.
Next.
Sorry, for Lincoln, I know there was an email that was vetted out. This was an ask to confirm, as far as the original renderings that Alex had proposed for the basketball courts, and
Yeah.
I think it's grassy.
Yeah.
Did we take that out on purpose?
It was never in the
or-
design. It was in a rendering that an architect showed just as a concept. So it was in the concept design, but it never was in the initial design.
So they won't have that outdoor opportunity?
Not there.
Oh.
I don't know what else is planned on the exterior of that. But I know that it's not in that courtyard.
Not in the courtyard.
Are the tennis courts going back in?
Tennis courts are the very last thing to go back in on the, behind the new space to the north of the football field.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there'll be 4 tennis courts there.
Nothing else? Okay, 9.1, agenda topics for the next meeting. We'll be discussing the new budget coming our way. We'll be discussing that before we take action on it at the regular meeting.
And Bob, I did learn from Dave that we do have to approve to display a budget because of the 30-day display that has to sit.
Okay.
So, but it doesn't have, but there will be changes to the budget as we go, so but that has to sit for 30 days.
Okay, cool. And then we'll also be discussing school year update, and it sounds like we might also be discussing the track some more.
Potentially.
So, yeah, okay. And with no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.